Well, here I am down in my new office in the living room, hiding away from my husband because I have COVID. Our roommate has COVID. This is how it goes. My roommate came home first. He's been with us for a couple of years, and we've known him for like 10 years. He's got a lot of issues. We met him when he was 40. He had 6 bypasses, and since then has had something like 25 stents put in his heart. They are all occluded right now, and he is waiting on getting on the heart transplant list. Needless to say, is pretty vulnerable. He also has one lung that does not function properly. So when he came home from the assisted living program that he works in, the facility, and he had to work in the front, letting people in and out of the facility, mailmen and different people that were coming and going. That is where they think that he contracted the virus. He had his first symptom 3 weeks ago today and got sicker and sicker very quickly, with difficulty breathing and very tired and bad chills, loss of sense of taste and smell. So he went in actually the next day because we know he can't take long. And by Friday, 2.5 weeks ago, he tested positive. The next week we decided we should get tested, my husband and I, because my husband has got Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune disorder, intestinal problem, and he's had migraines. He had also had a sore throat, which our roommate had as well. So we thought we better get tested. So we went in and got tested 2 weeks ago today, and we both tested negative. That night, I started to get ill. Started with congestion, coughing incessantly, started getting headaches, felt nauseous, called my doctor on Thursday to see if I could get some nausea medication, and I was really concerned about that negative test. Actually, when they did it, I thought, yeah, they're not going to get anything. I picked my nose further up than they stuck that swab. Like, how could they have gotten anything out? So I was skeptical to begin with. It was a drive-up thing, and that I don't know. Not to be judgmental, but I'm very cautious. And our roommate was told that up to 40% of the tests are false negatives at times. So I was concerned. We also had another friend that had shared pizza on our roommate's first day because he was homesick from work, and they'd shared a pizza. So I had to tell her, and we brought her with that same day. So I continued to get more ill throughout the weekend. The migraines got terrible, and then last Tuesday, I went in last Tuesday. So a week after we'd been tested, and I got tested again, and I started to distance from my husband at that point, and on Friday, my positive test came back. So I, at that point, definitely moved on to the couch, which is where my picture is that I took, and sleeping on the couch was very difficult because I have a back problem. And that first day I got up and I'm literally in tears with such a horrible migraine and, puking sick. Whether it was COVID or not, I don't know, but have isolated from my husband for those days. He did not have any symptoms. He had a sore throat 3 weeks ago. We'd been in the emergency room like 3 times with his headaches, but he's had migraines since he was a little kid. He's got a arachnoid tumor or cyst in his brain, but they say that's not the cause, even though he's had migraines since he was 5 years old. Personally, I think there's an issue there. But his migraines would come maybe once every, hospital sort of migraines every couple of months. Now they were coming every week. and there was nothing that they could do. So we were in the ER, and he's seen every neurologist, but they were really bad the last few weeks. Well, then he started getting nauseous last week, and he's got Crohn's, so nausea is a part of that as well. So his symptoms were consistent with what he's always had, but last Friday, he started, the day that I got my positive result, he started being really sick. He'd get up at 3 in the morning and he'd be throwing up, and that wouldn't go away till like noon. And then he'd have the headache. He just felt miserable. And we were at that point feeling both miserable. And normally I'm the nurse and I take care of him and I serve him everything. But now I'm not in a position to be cooking and serving and cleaning. And this is where we went from pandemic fatigue to pandemic exhaustion. And I think we need to change that whole diagnosis. I've been a counselor for 30 years. And my beginning of this whole pandemic, I started on a hotline, crisis intervention, working on the Diamond Princess. So I knew long before this disease came to the United States that we were in for a hellish experience if we did not get very quick intervention on this thing. And the more I saw large groups of people, especially going through the voting and the all of that stuff, I can't even think. And when we had one of the candidates come to our hometown in September with 5,000 unmasked, not socially distanced people, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be bad. At that point, we had 5 people that had passed away, and we'd have 5 or 6, maybe 8 people in our county that were testing positive. Our positivity rate was like at 15, which was still really high, but we weren't testing as many people. But then within a week, things started to blow up. Within 2 weeks, we were up to 150, 200, 220 people. 5 or 6 people are dying a day instead of in the course of 4 or 5 months. And we made 1 week, we were number 8 on the New York Times list for the worst county in the nation. And the week that I was diagnosed, we were number 2, from what I recall, 2 or 3 in the nation. Things are not good. And since that time, we've had a couple of other larger events in the community. The exhaustion came, we were pretty exhausted before because we were being very careful because I have 2 vulnerable people in the house. I'm healthy. I'm always healthy. I never get sick. And I haven't run a fever, and I'm really very healthy even through this thing. But having 2 people that we were very afraid if they got it, they'd be dead, it got exhausting. And when I had to distance myself and isolate myself, and I literally was in tears. You don't realize how much you touch stuff until, I don't know if you did this in school, but they did this with us to teach us about germs. And they'd put chalk from the blackboard all over your hands and then see what you looked like by the end of the class period. There was chalk all over the room, all over our faces, on our clothes. We had chalk everywhere. And once I became conscious of how pervasive and how dangerous this was, I started to pay attention and clean up after myself. And it's like, oh my gosh, you're turning the sink on, and then you're going to the refrigerator, and then you go to the microwave, and then you go to the stove, and then you're in and out of the bathroom. I couldn't believe it. I never knew I used the railing going upstairs. I had no idea until I realized, oh my gosh, I use the railing, and now I got to clean the railing because if my husband comes down, I could be giving it to him. Well, finally, he got tested on Thursday of this last week, and within 24 hours, he tested positive. The good part about that is I don't have to work so hard anymore because everybody in the house has it. Our roommate, and here's the other weird thing about this. When do we really know when we're safe to go out? That we're not contagious anymore? That we're not going to give it to everybody else? I don't think so. I don't think we know. And what they say is 10 days from your first symptom. Well, of course, my husband is like, oh, I had a sore throat 3 weeks ago, so my 10 days are up. I'm like, no, I don't think it works that way. You tested negative on the 10th. You probably need to go, his first real symptoms, if they were COVID symptoms, were the nausea and the worsening headaches that really just happened last Friday. So now he tested, he tested positive. Actually, he tested positive Monday of this week. He started getting sick on Friday, but he tested Monday, came back on Tuesday. How do we know? 10 days, they say, from your first symptom. And then really doesn't seem to have to do with when you get tested. This is still around. Another symptom is that stuff tastes like, my roommate describes it, because he was in the military, as rotted earth. And what that rotted earth came from, I don't know, but it's an icky taste. Lost my sense of taste and smell. We all have lost our sense of taste and smell. My husband still has a sense of taste, but he's lost his sense of smell. And both my roommate and I are also, I guess the good part about that is that I'm not eating as incessantly as I was before, because I ate a lot because it tasted good. Now that I can't taste it, I have realized that I'm somewhat of an addict, because I still go back. I still go and look for the cookies. I still think I should have ice cream at night. But why? Why bother? If you can't taste it anyway, it's not because I'm hungry. It's just because I like food. So there was some revelation there about why I have difficulty losing weight and why it's a little bit easier. Now, my husband has lost weight because he's felt so nauseous all the time. So you got to look for the good in this. I am hoping to get some media on this, in all honesty, because I am a counselor, and I just started the Christian Addiction Recovery Academy, CARA, because I've been sober now 24 years, started my recovery 44 years ago and quit using drugs. But the drinking, I quit for 10 years, and I'm like, oh, I can drink. I haven't drank for 10 years. Well, that turned into going from the glass of wine to the big box of wine. And, I should have had a clue. But I see why people are drinking. I understand why they're smoking pot and using drugs and doing anything and everything to not feel this way, to not feel cooped up and lonely and anxious. All of those feelings that I pretty well manage because I've got a strong faith, and I've always been upbeat, and I know God has a plan for me, and I know I was doing it every day. But when you feel so crappy and you can't go anywhere, and it's like, oh, I need to run to the store. Crap, I can't run to the store. I'm in quarantine. I can't go to the store. So then you try to find somebody that can go to the store for you, and then you forget to tell them to get this, and it's like, oh, I'm going to go through Drive Up. Well, then I'm worried about my money has got my germs on it. I've got COVID all over my money. If I give it to this guy, he is going to give it to the next person, and then it's going to go like wildfire. And it's like, so what do I do? So I got my credit card out. wiped off my credit card before I handed it to him, and then I made the guy promise me, when you run this through, you will go wash your hands, and you will, be careful and wash the machine, because I have COVID and I don't want anybody else to get this. Is anybody else that conscious? I know in my neck of the woods in northern Wisconsin, people there, I've got friends who have quit their jobs because they didn't want to have to wear a mask, because it was an invasion of their rights. Or because they believe I still have friends that believe this is a pandemic. We have 5-6 of our people in our county dying a day. How can we didn't have that many people dying a day of a diagnosable illness that all of a sudden came on them with no previous issues. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted over the conflict in our country, over whether this is real or not. I'm exhausted over being home. I'm exhausted over not being able to, we run a sober house with 8 people. Since we got this, we've had 3 new residents and a 4th one that we should be interviewing and getting all situated, and we can't. We don't have staff there. We are staff. We are the ones that do this. So what do you do? What do businesses do? I can't imagine doing that. My income comes from retirement. There's benefits to getting old. I'm turned 65. I got great insurance. God forbid that's going to change. Hopefully now it's not going to change, but we don't know. And what would I do? We'd have lost our house by now if we had to pay for our own medical expenses, because my husband's run about over $100,000 a year. His 8 weeks, every 8 weeks, he's got to have an infusion that is about $15,000 every 8 weeks. His monthly medication is $1,500 in addition. It's crazy how much it costs to just live life. We don't pay hardly anything. So God is faithful. And I know he's faithful in this, but are we out of the woods? No. Our roommate, 3 weeks now in, he still feels like crap. He feels worse some days than he did the first week. He's exhausted. He sleeps like all day. He'll have times throughout the day where he's feeling pretty good, like my husband and I do, and then times throughout the day where it's just like, I can't take this anymore. And there's no quick fix. There's no pill that they're going to just run out and give you. We both are on new medications because our symptoms are so bad that it just warranted, nausea medication, not a major deal. I went back on my migraine medication, but it just wears on you. The exhaustion, a friend of mine said, you got bags under your eyes. Check this out. Yeah, I don't have bags under my eyes. I usually sleep well. Not anymore. If it's not waking up because I feel awful, it's my husband waking up. I ache. Will you rub my legs? Will you rub my feet? He woke me up at 3 o'clock this morning because he was in so much pain. Welcome to Pandemic Exhaustion. So if this is you, if you are there, if you are struggling like we are struggling, we would like to help. We do a support group on Saturday mornings at 8:30. You can go to my website, lindalarsonschlitz.com, and sign up. It is really created for people in recovery, but we are all in recovery. We are trying to recover from this nightmare of a pandemic. Hey, thanks for listening. This is Linda Larson Schlitz from the Faucet of Hope, and I'd really love for you to sign up for a coaching session or to join one of our support groups or my course, Hope for Sobriety. You can sign up at lindalarsonschlitz.com.